Not sure if that worked. Chewbacca wasn't sure that worked.
Can we do a little bit of that song that we did last week?
Which
Was
one
it that? Was it F? Was that an F we did that? The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Again. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Encourage my soul and let us journey on. For the night is dark and I am far from home. Thanks be to God, the morning light of peace. The storm is passing over. 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 Hallelujah. Now this part is hallelujah. 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 The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Put your hands together and bless God. Sometimes it's important to recognize that the situation in which you find yourselves is a temporary situation. This too shall pass. Amen? Amen. So we find ourselves at a very critical juncture in life. In our community, we have many issues that we are faced with. At the national level, there are many issues, and we listed them last week as a part of our sermon there, and Jerry helped us by pointing out, in addition to all of what we had listed, the Amazon is on fire, and it provides 20% of the oxygen to the world, and it is even being threatened. And so the book of Habakkuk seeks to address this issue of why does a holy and righteous, omnipotent, omnipresent God allow evil to exist in the world? The interesting point is that it doesn't really answer the question. It points to us. And it says, you must live through these times. But I give you some encouragement. I give you some methodologies whereby you are able to live through these difficult and disturbing times. And so we concluded last week that one of the ways that we live through these difficult times is to recognize the presence of God with us. Amen? Amen. Anybody believe that God is with us?
Amen.
Amen. God is with us. Amen. And it is not something that we always feel. It is not something that we're always cognizant of. Many times we have pushed God aside and we have placed our confidence in other areas, in other kinds of concerns. And that's what this long text that was read today speaks to. Often, we place our confidence in what we consider to be our strengths. And among them, in a capitalistic society, is money. I know. You don't want to hear about it. I know. Nobody wants to talk about money. But money is a real deal.
Yep, it is.
And so, one of the things in conversation last week, as we were at brunch, the discussion came up about propaganda and how we are faced with so much propaganda in our country. We talk about other countries and their roles and uses of propaganda, not realizing that we ourselves, in our own system, are confronted with a lot of propaganda. But the propaganda that we are confronted with is not just the news. Much of it is about consumerism and money and the idea that our confidence can be in money. I received a call from my sister. I have many sisters, and so these are not necessarily blood sisters, but these are women that I am close to and have been close to for years and years and years, and they're like sisters. My sister, who's in Atlanta, called this week, and we were talking. And within the last 3 years, she has lost her son, her brother, and her husband, most recently. The husband was a man who was given to finances. Very, very smart. Major corporate position, earned a lot of money, saved a lot of money, invested very, very well, did very, very well, and to this day, she is doing well, even in his absence. But in her conversation, I could hear her saying to me, I would give up every dime to have my son, my brother, and my husband back, even if we lived in poverty. It points us to the relationality that we need to focus on. Life is not about consumption. Life is not about the acquiring through good means or even negative means. And the text that we're engaging talks about that. It talks about the karma of evil. That evil has its own karma. That the evil that is done is almost done in a circular manner. Because whatever you did, whatever was done, what evil was done, will come back to the very individual that did it in ways that are sometimes even more punitive than what they did. I don't know, you probably have never had enemies in your life.
Sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
Right? You don't know anything about that. Right? You don't think about enemies in your life, do you? Can I just speak for myself for just a moment? I've had an enemy or two, particularly among ministers.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Look out.
Because for any number of reasons, in addition to the fact that I was queer. I was in one of those closets that had a glass door and the light was on. Somebody help me. I thought I was fooling everybody, but the light was on and the door was glass. And there was a particular minister who, young man, we were young together actually, and we were sitting in the pulpit, and he said to me, "You are a faggot, and none good can ever come to you." We're in the middle of worship service. Well, I'll put it this way. He's not around any longer. And I am. He's not pastoring anymore. And I am. Because God has God's own specific time for these things to come to a head. You cannot pick the time. We often want to pick the time, right? I wanted him to drop dead in the pulpit right there. I didn't want to have to wait 20 years. I wanted him to die right then on the spot. But the text says, write the vision down and make it plain, because it is for an appointed time. And even though it will tarry, it may not come when you think that it ought to come, and maybe you become impatient in your longing for justice. Nevertheless, there is an appointed time, and it will come to pass. I said to you last week, and I'll say to you again this week, that my revelation about you as a people is that you are not worker bees. You are a think tank. I want you to look around the room and just consider the level of expertise we have in this church. Just look. I mean, I know you already know. You already know people. You already know who they are, what their experiences are. But just take a gander. Just for the exercise. Just look around and see how gifted and talented a people God has brought together in this church. And if you do that, then ask yourself why. And I would submit that the answer is that we have a capacity to influence the injustice that we face. And the question becomes, how best do we do that? God's justice will ultimately come. But in the meantime, there is something that we can do. No amens on that. Amen. It's all right. It's all right. There is something that we can do. We don't have to wait until the vision has been fulfilled. There are some things that we can do that will impact the injustice in the community that we live in. Amen.
Amen.
And that is our challenge. That is our challenge. That is our challenge.
Preach it.
But God is with us. And not only that, God has gone before us. And the way is already made. My friends marvel, since I'm talking about me, my friends marvel that I left everything in Denver in a hurry. Do you hear me? You don't hear me. With a quickness. Because hell is when you have a gifting and you have no place to exercise it.
Amen.
Oh, somebody help me. Huh? That's hell. That is absolute hell.
No,
Right?
Yeah, true.
no.
And I had spent 10 years winding up this PhD, 5 of which was going at a rapid clip, right? But then, then you start teaching. And so you get so tied up in the teaching, and your students, and all of the arrogance. The text talks about this too, and all of the arrogance that goes along with that. So you spend another 5 years just teaching, because you're an adjunct, you're a professor, and you just do that, and then 5 years goes by like that. You know that, right? And then you get the letter that says, if you don't finish this in the next year, it's over. Somebody help. Somebody help. Right? And so that's when you get serious. I love you, but I can't teach right now. Got to bear down on this dissertation and get this done. Amen.
All right, yeah.
So we survived that. We did that. We graduated. We got all of the trinkets that say, you know, who we are. And nowhere to exercise the gift.
Yeah.
Nowhere to exercise the gift. Year 1 after graduation, nowhere to exercise the gift. Year 2 after graduation, nowhere to exercise the gift. In fact, the very school that I put all that money into, nowhere to exercise the gift. And then I talked to Stan. And everything began to change.
That's what Desmond said.
We agreed on a date of coming. Came. You guys voted. I went back, started packing. I think I left as much stuff as I packed.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Wow.
Did you go to the
Right?
That's
I had my artwork, which I love and I'm almost inseparable from. I gave it away to my friends. You love me? Take this. In remembrance of me. Like Jesus says, do the communion in remembrance. Take this piece of artwork in remembrance of me, okay? And if we don't see each other again, fine, no problem. Just remember, we had a great relationship. So glad to get out of there because I knew there was more work to be done. And hell is when you're in a situation and you have gifts that cannot be utilized. That is not our as church. That is not our situation as church. We have the opportunity to exercise our giftings. And my prayer for you is that we will be able to move in that direction. And that the glory of God, which is really shown upon us, will be exemplified through our love and work with others. The Lord bless you today.
Amen.